So you
So
could like take a whiz from your chair and make it to the bathroom, right? You are listening to Chicagoland's finest podcast. The all-new Culture Cast begins now. Welcome back to the all-new Culture Cast, and today is the first part of what I think will ultimately be a three-part series where we're going
uh,
to be talking about the crossover CW superhero show crossover Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm Nick, by the way.
and I'm cousin Charles once again joining the show.
Yeah. So we're cousin Charles and I have been avid followers of the CW superhero shows. I have a
Hmm.
feeling I might be slightly more avid than you based on prior conversations, in so much that I actually watch all of them, and I don't think you watch all the shows. Am I wrong on that?
I think I'll keep. I think for the most part, I usually will keep like a general running knowledge of what's happening in a lot of the different shows. But in terms of like actually watching full episodes, like start to finish, it's usually right. I mean, for the most part, it's Legends because Legends is the in terms of quality and in terms of like consistent quality of like I'm entertained. That's usually the best out of all these shows, in my
Hmm.
opinion. And then I think I'll kind of die. I think this past season, at least, I've been watching Arrow more compared to the other ones. The other ones, I'll usually keep like a running knowledge of like, okay, what's kind of happening, or maybe I'll catch some clips on like YouTube and stuff,
Right.
but enough to keep me updated on what kind of is going on for the most part.
Right, but you don't necessarily sit down and subject yourself week after week to Supergirl or things like that, right? Like not you don't like follow all of that there.
Uh, Unfortunately, I do not. I've yet, as of this recording, I have seen zero episodes of Batwoman and zero episodes of, I think Black Lightning is the other one. But real talk, I actually do want to get into Black Lightning. I heard that's actually supposed to be a pretty good show on its own.
I like Black Lightning a lot. There are some bizarre pacing issues in that show. Like it'll be, for example, and not to it's not big spoilers, so because it happens in the comics, I guess. But I'm going to tell you anyway, so deal with it.
Okay.
Black Lightning's kids
Mhm.
have developed superpowers as the series progresses, and like it went from like one episode where the older daughter decides I'm going to join my dad as a superhero, I'm going to fight crime, and then the following episode she's like known by everyone, like, oh yeah, there's Thunder, yeah, we like Thunder, yeah,
Yeah.
that's her code name, Thunder, and it's like, wait, I missed something here. I missed a beat. So there are a couple of like narrative leaps that happen in the show that can be jarring at times. But I do like Black Lightning a lot myself. I think um, I like how it focuses heavily on the family. This current season of Black Lightning, I feel, is a little muddled because I'm not sure where they're going with it. Like things, like you're supposed to get an idea of how bad things are because the town they live in is being occupied, and
Right.
but it's like, okay, we're 8 episodes in, we get it. Can we progress from this? But you know, what do I? But what do I know? But overall, I have liked Black Lightning a lot.
Okay.
It was a good show that while it wears its politics on its sleeve, it's not as like blatant. Not blatant. That's the right term. It's not as
Cringy?
yeah, it's not cringy, and it's not like Supergirl wears its politics on its sleeve, but the way they present it's very kind of naive, I feel. Whereas Black Lightning doesn't have that issue. Like they,
It's like it's more sincere or something like that.
yeah, it rings a little bit more true. Um,
Okay.
I mean, you clearly have an idea where the politics of the writers and everything are of the show, but it's not like the problem I had with Supergirl last year, at least in the first half of the season, was they were doing a parallel with illegal immigration,
Mhm.
um, with like aliens coming to Earth, and the problem with Supergirl's politics is that it was kind of like we need to be nice to all the aliens that are coming in here and want to live here, and we need to make sure we're not being mean and cruel to them. Which is a fine sentiment, but in the show, aliens have been nothing but mean and cruel to humanity. So, like the fact that humanity has like a complete distrust of aliens, and to the point where it borders on xenophobia. Yeah, I kind of get why people might feel like that, but I didn't feel the show went into that viewpoint. And when it did, with its what we thought was its principal villain of the season, um, it made the villain like, yeah, he's right. I get why he's angry. I mean, maybe not defending like the whole killing that the bad guy does, but like what led him to that point. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't think that's what they wanted to do necessarily. So, yeah, so Supergirl's politics, which thankfully they've toned down this current season, I feel, um, was really, I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So, but
Uh,
anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about illegal alien immigration here on a fictional world. We're here to talk about the crisis, which is
we're he,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
we're he- I was gonna say we're here to make the CW great again.
Oh, jeez.
Uh,
Um, I should say we're going to by the time this episode goes up, God willing, we'll probably be 1 or 2 episodes into the Crisis crossover. So all this stuff comes from before we've seen anything. I mean, I know the super. We're recording this on Sunday night, and Supergirl's aired. I haven't seen it. I don't. Have you watched it yet?
I did while I was kind of before the show started. I was on YouTube and somebody posted a clip of the intro, which kind of confirmed a couple of things in my list, which I won't spoil for this episode. But I will say you'll be pleasant depending on how the rest of the episode goes. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what they pull off for the
Okay.
at least based on the little intro that I saw for the Supergirl episode.
All right, all right. I'm excited. I've been genuinely excited about this crossover since they first announced it about a year ago, which is a weird thought that
Mhm.
it's been a year since they been working on this. So that's exciting. All the little details that have come out over time have been exciting. But anyway, let's kind of get down to we kind of have a loose format of what we're going to be doing here tonight, people. I think we're
Mhm.
going to talk about some background stuff on Crisis in general. Then we'll start talking about the general stuff we've heard about the crossover and like cameos and stuff like that. And then I think we're going to talk about each of the different seasons, how they've built into uh, the Crisis crossover, which might be me doing more because I've actually watched all of them because this is what I do with my spare time. But no, like I said, I'm enjoy. Even though I poke fun, I do enjoy all the CW shows to a certain extent. Especially, I
Mhm.
really like Batwoman so far. I wasn't sure how I was going to take that
Okay.
because I don't like Ruby Rose, and I have no personal feelings on the character of Batwoman. But I've been enjoying it thus far. Um, but
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, we'll talk all about that, and then we'll go to some predictions, I think, and
Mhm.
we'll find out in the next couple episodes if we're right on our predictions or way off. So you wanna jump into that? You wanna jump into this?
I, I'm ready. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. We're on the road to crisis.
Road to Crisis. So, of course, this is based on the 1985 year-long crossover, Crisis on Infinite Earths, written by Marv Wolfman and illustrated by George Perez. A classic, if you were.
Mhm.
It was probably the first big crossover that comics have had in the sense of something to this scale. And between this and around the same time, Marvel did something called Secret Wars, probably kicked off what comic books have been doing pretty much every other month. Giant crossovers that promise to change everything forever.
Un- Until the next one.
Until the next one, yes. Although I will say, even though all the crossover stuff they have later on, stuff generally tends to go back to the status quo afterwards. The
Mhm.
Crisis tends to be the one that things stuck. Like
Mhm.
the history of I don't know. I'm just going to keep talking here until you tell me to shut up. The history of the Crisis. The reason they made this storyline was that they wanted to do something special to celebrate 50 years of DC Comics, and they also wanted to clean up their continuity, which they felt that
Yes.
readers were getting too confused because there were multiple Earths, there were a lot of characters, and they wanted a clean slate and do essentially a reboot of the DC universe. Um, yeah.
which I was which I was going to say a similar. It's this is the first time that DC's done it, but it's the most recent iteration of a version where it's kind of like we're going to start everything from scratch. Was probably the infamous New 52 back in 2011,
Yes,
which is also again we're clean slate, starting from scratch.
which I had high hopes for the new 52, and I liked a lot of the stuff they're trying to do. The problem with that one, it seemed like it wasn't as planned out as well as, say, the what they call post-crisis. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like they were the comic book storyline Flashpoint essentially led into the new 50, and they were teasing Flashpoint for a year, and it almost feels, because nothing in that story feels like it was meant to be a reboot except for like the last 2 pages, which seemed kind of like tacked on, which makes me wonder it was like a 11th hour decision to, hey, let's just reboot. um,
Yep.
and there was a lot of fumbling at the within the first year before things kind of got straightened out. But again, that's since been taken away. And DC did a publishing drive, no, a publishing push a couple years ago called Rebirth, where it's revealed
Yep.
that the new 52, it was all manipulated by something, and it was never meant to be, and we're going back to the old continuity. And it's like, well, whatever. But
It was fun. Fun while it lasted.
what they I'm not here's I'm going to be like a Monday morning quarterback, but if they really wanted to reboot, they should have like maybe planned for it a little more in advance, and maybe give the post-crisis era its finale story the way the Crisis on Infinite Earths gave the all the stuff before
The,
1985 like a finale. But anyway,
right.
back to the story. Have you ever read Crisis on Infinite Earths, the storyline, the comic?
I again, I'm probably going to I'll probably show my age, but I have unfortunately I have not. I will say, I mean, I mean, there are some images from Crisis and events from that story that kind of have, I would say, sort of have bled over into like the general
Oh,
kind of pop culture zeitgeist. Like, there's the
sure.
classic image of like Superman crying, holding Supergirl, uh, Barry Allen, Barry Allen dying, the Anti Monitor, things like that. That I think that I have a general knowledge of, but in terms of like what the actual story is, like from start to finish. Like, I know the basic setup that you described earlier, but beyond that, I have yet to read the actual like source material.
Well, let me tell you this. It's completely incomprehensible. You
Say it ain't so.
you need like a PhD in DC Comics to like understand anything that's going on in this thing. Um, I mean, it like the first issue alone is all of these random things happening, all these random characters that have like, what is this? What is this? Like, it assumes the reader knows what all of this stuff is. I'm not talking about like the monitor and the anti-monitor or any of that. Just like who is, for example, I'm opening up here. Like, who the hell is Firebrand? I don't know. Some superhero character that pops up, and so I own a copy of it. I bought it in either maybe around 2005. I figured, this is a classic tale. I need to own a copy of it. So I picked it up. I tried reading it, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And I put it down for like maybe 2 years, and I read through it. And I'm like, okay. And then in 2012, 2013, I read it again, and I understood it a lot better that time, because in that time I read or looked up. Wikipedia became a huge thing. The DC Comics
Mhm.
Wikipedia became a huge thing. So I was like brushing up on all this stuff. I'm like, okay, I know who these pieces are. So this story makes a lot more sense now. And I've been trying to reread it again in light of the crossover, but it's not an easy read. Like, I would not, if you want to punish someone, say this is a great story, you should read it. They'll be like, I don't know what's going on. A
Well,
coworker of mine who doesn't read the comics so much but watches the TV shows wanted to read the book she got from the library, and like he got through like 1 or 2 chapters, and he's like, screw this, and he just returned it. But
well, let me ask you this. So I'm assuming what I'm assuming what you have is like an omnibus or like like one of those things where they'll like publish all the issues together as like one
Yeah,
book.
it's a
So how big?
collection. A collection.
So how big is that collection like in terms of like pages or in terms of like
Um,
chapters? Like,
it's 12 issues long and it's about maybe 370 pages.
oh my God,
So
really?
yeah, it's not it sounds big. It's not. I mean it's bigger, but I don't know.
Right.
I like it's not an omnibus as in the traditional sense because omnibuses have a a ton of issues in it. I like larger comics like this. Like Marvel Comics is releasing a line of reprint collections called Epic Collections, where they reprint like
Okay.
19 issues of a run in one collection there, and it's about 400 to 500 pages. And it's nice because you can sit, you can read them, you feel like you got your money's worth. But so yeah, but I will say, just to toot my own horn, uh, my Crisis collection will never leave me because I have it signed by both George Perez and Marv Wolfman. So the artist
Really?
and writer I have signed, which I Perez I got signed at C2E2 comic book convention in Chicago here a couple years back, and just this past year, Marv Wolfman, who hasn't been at this thing as far as I'm aware ever, or at least not since I've been aware of it, um, was there, and I'm like, I'm going to get him to sign that. So I did, and so I have both the artist and the writer signing my collection, which is cool because I think Perez and Wolfman are largely retiring from the convention circuit. So my time was then if I was going to get it done.
Yeah, you hit the nail right in the head. That's actually that's awesome.
Of course, it's not worth anything because whatever. But hey, it's the cool thing that counts. So um,
Hey,
anyway, getting back to the story, it's I'm not going to go into the plot details because we'll be here forever. But
yeah, it'll be like the Riverdale
yes.
season 3 episode.
Um, but let's kind of segue into general crisis CW crisis talk.
Okay.
I'm. It's interesting that well, they have to because Arrow has been like the number one
Mhm.
show. It's kicked it off, but like Green Arrow in the Crisis storyline is barely in it at all. Like he's in it, but he's not like a main focus.
Right,
Um,
he's just like a background or just like a supporting character, I assume.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, Flash and Supergirl have prominent roles in it, though I wouldn't say they're the lead characters. But you could see why, if they're doing a Crisis TV show, why those two characters would be involved because they associate those characters with their deaths in
Right.
the comic. But like it's interesting that Arrow seems to be the linchpin, or Oliver Queen seems to be the
Mhm.
linchpin in the Crisis TV story, and he has like virtually nothing to do in the the comic book version. So just interesting observation.
Well,
So
let me ask you this, since you've actually read the original source material. So while the show is kind of making Oliver Queen kind of like a big central role in a lot of the stuff that's to come, who is that character in the original story? Like, is there like one character that's like a focal point?
no,
Um,
the,
that okay,
I mean that's one of the issues with I feel the Crisis storyline is that the characters like there's like a bunch of characters who all are doing all different things from good guys
okay,
to bad guys and they're all going on their little side adventures trying to prevent the Anti-Monitor from destroying reality. I mean ultimately it kind of centers on Superman because Superman
hmm
ultimately destroys the Anti-Monitor. The two versions of Superman, the old Golden Age Earth 2 Superman and the modern Earth 1 Superman. And I'm sure people who have no idea, who don't read the comics, have no idea what I'm talking about right now. But
right,
um, so like that focuses it. Another character that focuses on heavily is Alexander Luthor, who is the son of Lex Luthor from a parallel world, who is a good guy Lex Luthor, who had a son with Lois
okay.
Lane. Like
Oh, okay.
he's the main character in that as well, but he doesn't pop up until maybe about as the story goes on. His role becomes more. Obviously, the Monitor's in it, but the Monitor is spoilers, killed off about midway through the storyline. Um, so it's tough to say that there's like a focal character in it because there are a bunch of characters in it, and like everyone has a job to play. So
Okay.
yeah, so there's that. But yeah, so what are your I've been talking, so I'm going to switch it over to you so you could chat here. What are your impressions like building up to this current crisis? Like what do you think of it so far?
I mean, so far it does seem to be, in terms of like, because it seems like every year leading up to this, there was always kind of like, okay, what are they going to do for the next crossover? Then we'd find out maybe a couple months before it actually happened, and then before it actually happened, then we were like, okay, well, that was fun. Well, because it didn't really play, for the most part, it didn't really impact like what the general storylines were for each show. It was kind of like, well, this is a fun little side adventure. Now back to whatever we were dealing with before. But this definitely seems to be, I mean, this is something that they've teased since the first season of Flash,
Hmm.
is the idea of Crisis. I mean, I think the fourth crossover, I mean, that was called Crisis on Earth X,
Yes.
kind of invoking the Crisis imagery. And I think, well, all of last year's crossover, the whole Elseworld was pretty much a setup to this. I mean, they pretty much, the end of that was Crisis.
Hmm.
Next year, we're doing it. So, and I think it is going to be, I don't want to go far as to say that it's going to be kind of a direct equivalent to like, what we saw earlier this summer with like Endgame, but it's pretty close in terms of like the level of ambition. Like, hey, this is a, this is a big storyline from the comics. We're setting it up. We're doing everything that we can to try to hopefully deliver, well, something that is important, but is also kind of all over the place, and hopefully make it into a concise, more or less like 3 or 4 hour movie.
Right.
Um, so I would say I'm very, kind of very, I've been looking forward to this, and especially the news that has come out in terms of like in terms of like where we're going to reference, what is going to be kind of mentioned in this whole event, which I think we'll probably get into soon, because I'm kind of interested to see what they're going to pull off, and or what they pull off, or what they kind of say is or is not related to this whole CW verse.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's we could talk. We could just go into the cameos that have been confirmed anyway. Um, I that this is the thing that's been exciting me the most of who they're all getting to either reprise a role or just throwing in there. Like what was it? The biggest one probably being Brandon Routh reprising his role as Superman.
Yep.
Uh, whether he's playing the same Superman he played in Superman Returns is kind of left, I think, deliberately vague.
The,
Um,
for I was gonna say, for the most part, the from like the promotional images, it's very much Kingdom Come inspired Superman.
right.
With the way the shield looks and the hair and all that, which
True.
makes which makes
True.
sense.
Yeah, that is true, but I don't know if the implication is he's the same Superman, but that's what he grew into, or if it's just a completely different character that they're just giving, a bone to the fans, like, oh, look, it's Brandon Routh playing Superman. But I guarantee you they're not going to reference anything in Superman Returns other than Brandon Routh playing the role. They're not going to be like, hey, remember that time Lex Luthor tried to make a kryptonite island? That's not going to happen. Um,
Nick, it wasn't. Nick, it wasn't an island. It was a whole continent. God, I can't
oh,
believe you would forget about the Bryan Singer directed Superman Returns.
to be fair, I,
Um,
I actually like that movie quite a bit, but anyway, so there's I don't see them actually doing that. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I'd be like applauding them. I'm still curious. We talked about this before. I'm curious if Adam and Brandon Routh Superman will be in a scene together, or if they'll even make like hey, you look like Ray Palmer, but I'm not counting on that. But
well, fingers fingers crossed. Well, kind of the other, if we're going back to just cameos in general of what they're planning and doing, or what they are definitely 100% doing for this, and kind of going back to the idea of like, okay, we're invoking some of the imagery from Kingdom Come,
hmm
is legendary voice, or probably one of the most legendary voice actors in terms of like Batman,
Kevin
Kevin
Conroy.
Conroy. Finally,
Yeah.
after all these years of voicing him, God, since the '90s,
Yeah.
being kind of like what a lot of people consider to be the definitive voice. 'Cause I think he even still does projects to this day, like like if DC had, I think there was something. There's something I remember seeing. I don't know how I came across this. Don't ask me. But it was somewhere. It was like some sort of Scooby, like a modern, like a Scooby Doo cartoon with Batman, and Kevin Conroy was still doing the voice in that too, just like he was in the '93 in the original animated series, and the Arkham games. I think is the other big one. I think a lot of newer, younger fans might know him from. But he is. I think the look that they're going for is definitely the Kingdom Come esque, where he's kind of got the exoskeleton look.
Mm-hmm.
And he's definitely supposed to be the much older version of Bruce Wayne. And I even heard some rumors online that they were going to go one step further. Did you ever watch Batman Beyond?
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
when it was on the air.
yeah.
So they were going to say they might do some sort of kind of amalgamation thing where it's like where he's kind of playing that same sort of role of Bruce Wayne being sort of like the mentor. Because I heard there was another. Because I kind of looked at a bunch of different I was like, okay, who's confirmed? Who's a rumored cameo? Um, Another voice actor, Will Freddy, who voiced Terry McGinnis, you know, who was the guy, the voice of the character from Batman Beyond, might make it. They might make an appearance, kind of making more of a direct sort of Batman Beyond live action, or at least kind of like
Mm.
alluding to it, which I think could be interesting because I think a lot of fans have asked for like a. Because I remember hearing again, people on Reddit and stuff like that, kind of saying, hey, they should do a live action Batman Beyond with, ideally Michael Keaton in the role, which I've heard before. But this would be kind of a nice sort of I think that would be kind of like a pretty cool way of, at least sort of addressing sort of fans, demands to see of what they want to see.
I'm curious in the several trailers they released. Uh,
Mhm.
Batwoman recognizes Bruce Wayne and he recognizes her, and they have some sort of conversation, which I almost wonder, is Kevin Conroy playing an alternate version of Bruce Wayne, or is he playing a like in the Batwoman? The premise is that Bruce Wayne's has disappeared for like past 3 years. No one knows where he's at. Is he
Yeah.
playing the Arrowverse, like the definitive Arrowverse version of Bruce?
Mm.
So I'm curious on that. I mean, I guess it could be anything, but it makes me wonder if they do bring Bruce Wayne on the show of Batwoman eventually, if Kevin Conroy will play the role, whether it's an alternate version or what. So unless he is the Earth One version and he's killed off in this crossover, which could also happen, who knows? But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Lot of questions with that one, but yeah.
well, we'll kind of think another kind of if we're, I don't want to go through the full list of cameos. I
Mhm.
think there's plenty to go through. But the other, just kind of while we're on the subject of Batman, and in terms of like missed opportunities, like if the timing was just a little better, Burt Ward is supposed to be confirmed to make an appearance in Crisis,
Yes, yes,
which I think again, if the history, if timing had been different, or if like something like that, I'm sure if Adam West was still with us, we probably would have had him, kind of be involved in something like this.
oh yeah, most
Maybe
definitely.
not as a major player, but it is definitely one of those kind of
Adam
again,
Adam West would have
a
told
fortunate missed opportunity.
Yeah, Adam West would have totally done it because what else does he have going on? Besides being
Yeah.
dead. No, that's mean. Um,
Oh,
but
that's a
no,
little blue.
he he
Uh,
he totally would have done it because Adam West is a sellout. Let's be honest with ourselves. I love Adam West, but he was a sellout. He would have probably been up for it. He probably would have been like, "Can I wear my bat suit again? And I shall
Man, if they,
throw anti-monitor repellent from my utility belt."
I mean, how old was he when he passed? He was like what, 80, like
Oh, he
80
was
year
up
old
there.
plus Adam. yeah, 80-year-old plus Adam West, kind of in that spandex suit. Would not have been a pretty image, but yeah, I think that is kind of one of, but it is kind, but I think that is kind of a nice, or at least kind of, I think it is still pretty cool that they're like, hey, Burt Ward, you want to pop in on this one?
Um,
Um,
the other big cameo is of course Tom Welling as returning
mm,
as and Erica Dunn, I don't know how you pronounce her name, returning as
you're
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But returning as Superman and Clark Kent from Smallville, allegedly, people better not get their hopes up because supposedly he was only filming for 1 day, so he probably has
oh,
one scene. And they're probably like, "Hey, do you want to join us?" He's like, "No." Okay, bye. I bet that's the crux of it. But
hopefully, hopefully we're proven wrong.
who knows? Maybe they'll have a Portals moment in the last episode where all the characters come up for a giant moment to face off against the Anti-Monitor. But I don't know. I I don't know. They've hinted at that they've revealed some of the characters who they have in there, but there are several others who have not been mentioned at all to have surprises for viewers. So I'm curious to see who else they have pop up in there, and if it's obscure or if it's like blatant, like, oh, I remember that person. That's Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer's not showing up, but
There's,
uh, I saw one of the previews. Will Wheaton, I think, is guest starring in there.
is he
Um,
really?
in the one of the previews, there's someone that's holding like the end is near, the end is near, and I'm like, is that Will Wheaton? I rewound the clip. I'm like, yeah, that's totally Will Wheaton. So he has like a little cameo, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, so
uh,
going back to the comic book, there are two Supermen in the comic book version that kind of ultimately save the day. I wonder if the role of Brandon Routh's Superman is kind of playing the role of the older Golden Age Superman, whereas
yeah.
other Superman, I can't think of the actor's name,
Uh,
Supergirl Superman,
It's like Tyler Hoechlin or Hochin. I can't pronounce the last name to save for the life of me.
Tyler Hoechlin,
T8. Uchi.
and him playing like the younger version. But so that'd be interesting. I'm curious to see how that'll go. But so yeah, we got some interesting cameos. I'm still hoping what's her name, Linda Carter pops up
Uh,
as Wonder Woman.
yep.
That would be awesome.
I think they may, or yeah, because I mean that one of all the one, I'm surprised that they haven't made any rumor said anything about that. But I hope that is one of those kind of like you were saying, sort of like surprise they toss it at us
Right.
because she's already been on Supergirl. She was the alien president, if I recall.
Yes. Yes. It. I'm. Yeah. I heard rumors, but I never heard confirmation. So I don't know. We'll see. I guess.
Hmm. Do you want to kind of let's? I think probably now is a good time since we kind of. I mean, the cameos are kind of the big things that
Right.
a lot of people are focused on. But I think let's kind of go into a little bit about where the current state of like where a lot of shows are because there are currently 6 CW superhero shows, correct?
Yeah, it sounds about
With
right.
uh,
Somewhere between like
yeah,
5 and 28
yeah,
shows.
with
Um,
many more down the pipeline.
yeah. So, let's go over a couple of things really quickly. Let's go over the ones that have least amount to do, because there's not much
Okay.
discussion there. So far, Black Lightning, nothing. Has not even
Yeah,
hinted that there's a parallel world. Although I guess
no,
next week's episode, even though it doesn't tie into the Crisis at all, because they're not having a Crisis episode, they're doing something with parallel worlds. So I don't
okay,
know. Probably they're doing a thematic tie-in, but so
right.
so there's that. Legends outside of the Anti-Monitor popping up in the season finale in a humorous cameo,
Yeah,
um, where he's like watching like the show eating popcorn.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, has had
Uh,
nothing to do with the thing so far. Uh, Batwoman has had nothing to do with the crossover so far. Um, Supergirl has largely had nothing to do with the crossover so far, with the
Yeah.
only two exceptions was at the end of last season they recruited Lex Luthor, like Lex Luthor
Mhm.
was killed, and the Monitor brought him back to life, and
Yep.
they brought Lex Luthor back in last week's episode, saying, "All right, Lex, time's up. We got to start doing this," as well as uh, Martian Manhunter's brother, who was imprisoned in the Phantom Zone. The Monitor released him, and he's been kind of like a bad guy, but now they turned him into a good guy. And the Monitor approached the Martian Manhunter in last week's episode, saying, "Oh, by the way, that was all a test because you
Yep.
gotta help out with something." So,
Well, then the one other kind of quick side note I wanted to make, just I think the one thing that is an interesting choice, but I think that could work well is that both the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor are being played by the same actor.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
while I think they did show a picture of what the Anti-Monitor looks like, and it's, I don't want to say discount Thanos, but it's not. I mean, it wouldn't be too far off to say in terms of that just bald guy, wrinkled face. But it works. Uh, it's a decent interpretation, I should say.
Yeah, it's interesting because he looks. The Anti Monitor in the original comic looks nothing like the
He looked more
CW
like a
version.
robot.
Yeah, but from what I understand, I haven't read this myself, so I don't. I'm not sure. I've Googled images, but the Anti Monitor more recently in the comics have popped up, and I guess his appearance in the CW show is more in line with his more modern appearance in the comics. So
Okay.
there's there's that, I guess. And if someone's listening that says, "Nick, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about," then I don't, because I'm only going off of hearsay and third hand accounts and a few things I've Googled. So, but I will say, like, the Anti Monitor, his original appearance and his like kind of main appearance up until about last couple of years, he looks ridiculous. If that was like a
Yep.
on-screen character, he would look like he's like from a Power Rangers Zord or something like that.
Right.
It would. I don't see how that could be made threatening. I don't, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it would not work successfully. So I get why they did what they did. I like that the actor is playing both roles.
Mm,
I think that's clever
yeah.
because he should be.
I think that. Yeah, and because it's kind of. 'Cause I think that is kind of like an interesting. Because I think, especially in Arrow, I think a couple times they've been like, "Oh, is this?" There's a few times when the monitors popped up where people are going, "Was that the actual monitor, or was that the anti-monitor in disguise?" And I think that's
Mm,
kind of. I think that could be interesting to see if how they cover if. But I think for the most part, since not to skip too far ahead, but for all functioning purposes, Arrow is done. Like I think the Crisis episode will be Arrow's technically last episode.
there's going to be two episodes of Arrow after the Crisis. One that's
There
going,
is?
yeah, one that's going to serve as like a backdoor pilot for a spin-off show that I'm
Okay.
guessing will center on Arrow's daughter from the future. Um,
Yep.
and one will be the actual final episode.
Okay. 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 Then disregard that last statement. I was just completely wrong.
Well,
Although I will say, oh, go ahead.
no, I mean I'm with you on that because I was confused how they were going to do that at first. Like I was thinking, like really because spoilers of what's supposedly going to be happening, or we'll dip into our predictions a little bit here while we go in and out. But like the implication is that Oliver Queen is going to die sometime during the Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that'll actually happen, but we'll save that for predictions. Um,
Yep.
so, but with that in mind, if he was supposed to die or whatever, I could see. At first, I thought, well, is the Crisis going to be? Because after your main character dies, do you really have a show anymore? but um, if he was, so if the Crisis was the last episode, I'd be like, really, they're ending Arrow as a part of a crossover as opposed to
Yeah.
its own little ending thing. But it turns out they aren't going to do that. They're going to do the other thing. So there's that. But yeah, I was wondering how that one was going to work. So
So I think so we've talked about the two shows that aren't really haven't had any build up. Supergirl's had some. So I guess the two main ones have had kind of the biggest build up. I guess we'll go. I think well, I guess the next one would be Flash,
flat. Yeah.
because Flash is because Flash I've watched a little bit of that this season. I really didn't watch any of season 5 too much with no with all the future daughter stuff that was going on.
Hmm.
But I do know, but I have been watching this one, and I think the big thing for this first half is the Monitor. Basically, at the end of the first episode, I think came to him and said, "Barry Allen, you will die. Crisis has been moved up, so it's no longer that original 2020 or what was it like 2024 or something.
Yes.
It's going to be like 2019. It's going to be 2019."
Yes.
I mean, they gave us the date and everything, which I was like, okay. I see what you're doing. 'Cause I think at that time they hadn't shown any trailers for like the Crisis crossover at that point. So it's like, okay, so that's what it's going to be, December.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
we knew it was going to be in fall. That's the only thing we knew about it.
yeah,
But yeah, it didn't have
uh,
specific dates or anything.
and because I think the main thing, or the main two things that have been Crisis related with the Flash is the big one is the Flash trying to prepare the team for life without him.
Yeah. How smug
And then I
can
think the
you
second
get?
one. Well, we're only 8 episodes into our 20 episode long season. I'm sure we'll have an entire show about Elongated Man, Killer Frost, and Vibe.
No, no. I'm just thinking like in general, like Barry's like, I need to prepare the team because when I die, life will stop. It's like, dude, get over yourself. You're not that important.
Also, Barry, the team following the show's track record, the team has stopped multiple times.
Right.
Usually, I think the start of each season, I've described it many times as we're getting the band back together. Season 2 started that way. Season 3 started that way. I'm pretty sure season 4 might have started at some variation of that. I can't remember what happened in season 4, to be
Yeah,
honest.
Flash went into the Speed Force at the end of season 3, so it was a reverse band getting back. They had to get Flash back.
Yeah, they had to get the lead singer back into the band.
Yeah,
So
Freddie Mercury needed to come back.
yeah. It's literally it's like the Beatles beating on top of the roof in Abbey Road and doing that one final concert, but just 4 times in a row. Has been each and every Flash premiere, but so there's that. I think the second thing that I remember, I think they did have one episode where it was like Barry went to Earth 3. It was the one that they had their version of old man Jay Garrick living on, with also a version of I can't remember what her name was, but it was the same actress that plays his mom.
Oh yeah. Joan Allen. Well,
Yeah.
not Joan Allen. Joan Garrick is the character in the comics, and Nora Allen is the mother. But yeah, that pretty much, and those are the only things that have really happened. Preparing the team for his death, giving Ralph a logo,
Yep.
and just kind of, it's been dealing with things here and there. Meanwhile, they have like this Bloodwork storyline they're working on, so that's been what's been going on with that. So moving on to Arrow, which I think has been the other one that's been big. Pretty much every episode has dealt with Crisis, which is so weird to think, because Arrow started as a street level, heavily inspired by the Nolan Batman movies, no superpower type show at all, and now we're dealing with Arrow shooting arrows into things to prevent the multiverse from collapsing, because that's how the world works.
Well, going back to that of like the evolution of this one show, you mentioned a statement of like, oh yeah, there's a spinoff with Oliver's future daughter that came from the future to the past, and we're just like, do you remember like in the first season, the first episode, there's like some thugs that try to kidnap Oliver, and he's like, kills one of them. He's like, no one must know my secret.
Yeah,
that was the show we started with, and here we are now. So. Improvement?
I guess.
I mean, definitely I mean, I think we jumped the shark, and in terms of if this was like, if it wasn't for the fact that this is a superhero show, I think most other television programs would be like, this is complete nonsense. But because it is have that, because it is set in like the world of DC comics, it's like, you know what, these things happen. Time travel, intergalactic gods, all that stuff. So it's like, you know what, it's all par for the course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will say, kind of just quickly commenting on season 8, I did find it clever. For the most part, it seemed like each of this season of Arrow, like at least leading up to Crisis, it kind of correlated to what the general theme was for each season of the show itself.
Yeah, I did like that.
Okay, I was like, I didn't know if that was just me, but I thought you might have noticed that too.
Yeah, I think
like the first episode was like,
yeah, I think
go
that
ahead.
it was intentionally done as a way to
Yeah.
like celebrate the series. Like there was like you were saying, the first episode was a lot like early season 1 of Arrow, and then
Uh-huh.
they had an episode that was in Hong Kong, which is like the third season of Arrow, and then an episode that was in Russia was like the fifth season, and yeah, they did a lot of referencing, which was nice to kind of like celebrate the show's overall legacy.
What I think is when I think when you're kind of in your show's last season, which a lot of shows don't. I will say don't really get the opportunity where they're like, okay, we're going to end it on our terms. Let's go out on kind of a high note. And I do appreciate everything that they're kind of doing, sort of just like, you know what, even though there is, I don't want to say back to basics, but just kind of like, you know what, we're going to cut back the amount of characters that we focus on, keep it kind of very simple. This is Oliver's story. These are the people in his life that help him,
Hmm.
but we're not trying. I think that's the big issue with Arrows. They started trying to give everybody a story and everybody a focal point, and it's like, well, what's going on at any one time?
Hmm.
But so I think that was really smart and really good, especially just sort of like, you know what, this is what started it all. We're going to give it a dignified kind of end. We're not going to like, try to, we're not going to be like going too crazy. We're going to be like, you know what, we've come a long way. Let's kind of celebrate that, which I do appreciate a lot.
Yeah, no, it's been a strong season. It's been really focused and really tight in the plotting and everything. I've been they've had some one-offs, but it's all been leading to a certain point. But I've been enjoying it so far. I was a little nervous because they were still doing the future scenes, because Arrow
Yep.
was known for doing flashbacks, and then about last
Yep.
year they started doing flash forwards,
Yep.
and it was like the weakest part of the show. And I'm thinking, like, why are they doing that again for this season? But they kind of turned that on its ear by suddenly, oh, guess what? It's they brought the kids forward, backwards in time, so that storyline you thought was going
Yeah.
somewhere, it's meaningless. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I can get behind that. Thumbs up, show. But
Always down for little time travel shenanigans.
yeah, so I've been enjoying that. Like Oliver, his storyline. Basically, we've been learning most about Crisis through the Arrow show, in which
Right.
Layla, Diggle's wife, has been working with the Monitor
Hmm.
for years, which is so brilliant. Because when they introduced her character back in season 1 or 2 of Arrow, her character Layla Michaels, her codename Harbinger, are lifted directly from the Crisis comic book. Like there's a character named Layla who works with the Monitor, whose codename is Harbinger, and back in Arrow started, they just needed a name from the comics, and they picked that. Probably because this is a random character. We'll never do anything with this, so we can do it, and it'll be like a nod
Right.
to the comic fans. And then now that they're doing the Crisis storyline, they're utilizing that character in the role that she was originally created for in the source material, which is secretly brilliant, sort of brilliant. I don't know, but
I I think it was one of those. I think you're absolutely right. I think it was just they need to pick out a name, and just coincidentally, it's like, yeah, we're doing the story. Might as well. I don't think there was like this, forethought of like, after we introduce our dark and gritty Arrow show, we're eventually going to. This is all going to lead up to a fantastical crossover where the whole stake of reality is, at odds.
yeah, no, that was never the
Um,
plan. They got
no,
lucky.
yeah,
That's
they
what
really
it amounts
they're
to.
like, wow, we sure bet on the right horse.
So,
Um,
I read something interesting that the producers were, because Warner Brothers is very protective about the
mhm,
storylines and their rights and everything, and so back when the Nolan movies were coming out, like Smallville and a lot of the cartoon shows were not allowed to reference Batman things. The only exception was Batman was allowed to be on like the Justice League cartoon and all that was on at the time. Um, so they had like what do they call it, embargo, and still they have
mhm,
some things allegedly. I don't know if I buy into this. Arrow had to get rid of their Suicide Squad because of the then upcoming Suicide Squad movie.
mhm.
I don't think that's true. I think because the producers claim that wasn't the case, but who knows? But what is interesting though is I guess for the longest time they were told no, you can't do Crisis. But then I don't know when it was. Warner Bros. Came and said, hey, if you want to do Crisis, that option is open to you now. Which makes me wonder if they were saving that storyline back for a potential movie, and then they saw Justice League shit the bed, so we're not going to do anything with that anytime soon. So CW, if you want to do it, have at it. Um,
Yeah,
and so I guess that was Warner Brothers telling them you can do this story if you want, and so they're like, well, let's do this story then. So
because I was going to say, just as a general comment, just kind of on the state of where these shows are, they're definitely, as you kind of watch these shows, I think as fans, we kind of notice it because it was like, oh, they have Deathstroke on the show. Well, now he's gone because he's going to pop up in he's going to pop up in like because as a cameo at the end of the Justice League movie,
hmm
or they had a version of Amanda Waller. Well, she's dead now because we got Amanda Waller in the Suicide Squad. Even when they finally introduced Superman in the Supergirl show, it was spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen Dawn of Justice. It was right after Henry Cavill's Superman was killed, but he got better. But I will say, in the current state, it does seem like there's a little bit of a laxing on those rules
hmm
in terms of like what is off limits and what isn't. Because going to our cameo portion, the fact that we're going to have like before for many years, like they couldn't even. I know in Arrow they kind of alluded to like different parts of like I think there was like one early episode that referenced like Bloodhaven, which fans are going like, oh, Bloodhaven exists in the Arrowverse, which means Batman exists. It's like,
hmm
okay, no, that's a tiny tidbit. But I think in the last couple of years they name dropped Bruce Wayne a couple times. Even in the first part of
Yes.
the season of Arrow, Earth 2's Bruce Wayne apparently played the role of that Deathstroke did for which I think is kind of interesting, and that would be fun in its own sort of Elseworlds kind of way of like, oh, I'd like to see how that would have played out. But so yeah, there definitely seems to be a change in like attitude, which I think is good for us as fans because we get to see stuff that I don't think in the current state of like the how at least the movies are going, we're going to see the same way we would with like Marvel and stuff like that. But I
No,
think it is for the best ultimately.
no, I agree. I think that will be, yeah. I mean, who knows what they're going to do, especially now that they're rebooting Batman on the big screen with Robert Patterson and like the yeah. I don't know how they're going to do that. If they're going to do they're still doing the extended universe, but they're kind of not doing the extended universe. I don't know how that works, but we'll find out. Anyway, uh, we're not. That's a podcast episode all on its own. But
Yeah, well, so I didn't
let's
mean to kind of drag that in, but let's get back to the
yeah
crisis.
let's talk about predictions. What do
Okay.
you think will happen in the crisis?
Um,
Any major or minor predictions?
this is gonna be a little bit of a, as the kids would say, shit post, but I'll be like, they're going to say the whole world is on fire, but we're only really going to see one city block of Vancouver under threat.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably. Let's be honest
I
with ourselves.
yeah, I always hate to say that, but it's like the last couple times when they're like a worldwide invasion or something, or like the world or reality is at stake. Well, here's a couple blocks of Vancouver that seem to be in distress.
Or they'll just be on the
All
wave.
joke.
They'll be on the wave rider the entire time, and we'll just see
Exactly.
oh no, these blinking dots which represent various universes are blinking out.
Yeah. Um, which, all joking aside, I do hope that I don't know in terms of the way this set. I'm trying to think of like actual predictions. 'Cause I wrote it. Try and go back to my notes really fast. I think in terms of predictions, I think they are. I think they definitely are going to have some surprise cameos that people either rumored about or didn't even think to ask about. You know what I mean? In terms of what the story is going to be, I don't really. I mean, like I said, you'll have the better handle of it as you read the original source material. But in terms of like what's going to happen, I mean, obviously, I think Oliver is going to die. No, Barry will probably live, or they're probably going to do. Here's what I think is going to happen. They're probably going to have a Flash die,
Uh huh.
and then they're going. It's going to be like an Obi-Wan, kind of moment where it's like, well, what I said was true
From
from
a
a
certain
certain point
point
of
of
view.
view, yeah. I think the John Wesley Shipp character of the Flash will die. The '90s
Well,
Flash.
okay, yeah, I was going to say because technically there are two versions of a Flash played by John Wesley Shipp, Jay
Oh,
Garrick, and '90s Flash.
the '90s Flash will die, who is Barry Allen. Um,
Yes.
and I think it will be a case of the monitor said, "You're gonna die, Barry Allen. You can't change that." But the monitor's like, "Oh, it's not this Barry Allen. It's gonna be
Yeah.
the other one." And I just wanted you to know that so you'd have the courage to save the day or something. Um,
Right. He'll say something along the lines of like, "It was all a test."
yeah. I Here's something that I think will happen, and they hinted at this at the end of last season of Arrow, and it also references the comics. I think Arrow is going to do something that will save the day, and to the world at large, they'll think he's dead. But in reality, the Monitor or some other character, I don't know, we'll see. Like I said, in the comics, the Monitor had all these like little side characters who helped carry on his legacy afterward. And in the original comic book, the Golden Age Superman, the Golden Age Lois Lane, and one or two other characters were saved from being wiped out of existence and were taken to a paradise like dimension where they got to live happily ever after. I think that's going to happen to Oliver.
Okay.
And the reason I partially think that is at the end of last season of Arrow, at the very end of the season, Felicity
Mm-hmm.
in the future um,
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Well, I have to go do something," and she meets the Monitor, and the Monitor's like, "Are you ready to go? Because once you go, you can't come back." And she's like, "I've been waiting years to see him again," and she's like, "Okay," and they
Right.
go off in this weird portal. So my guess is Oliver will go to this life everlasting. I don't know. He finally gets have
Right.
peace or something like that. Um, that's my prediction for Oliver.
One of the things I won't call it my prediction because I think I did read it online. But there one thing where I think a lot of fans were thinking that because there was a post that the Oliver Queen's actor Stephen Amell made where he weirded something on it, but he used the word specter in there, like the specter of crisis
Mm,
looms over, and that a lot of people really believe that that his version of Oliver Queen was going to be resurrected as some form of
of the
the
Spectre.
Spectre, which I know, yeah, which I know a little bit about, but Nick, you might be able to go in a little bit more detail because
The
I know
spec
he's green.
Yeah,
Um,
the Spectre is kind of like a all-seeing kind of god type character who does stuff. That's about all I know. I guess that's possible. I've also seen, and I don't know, Stephen Amell could be just doing this just for kicks, where he very poorly, and I think it was intentionally done to be poorly, photoshopped his face over Robert Downey Jr. when Robert Downey Jr. snaps his fingers in Avengers, and he said something like, "Well, that's a wrap on Crisis," or something goofy like that, where
okay, that's pretty.
implying that he has like a Robert Downey Jr. saves the day type role in the Crisis. So yeah. Supergirl won't die because she has a show.
Yep.
Superman won't die because he is supposedly going to get a show next year. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I'm
There's a clip that shows Nora getting erased from existence. Um, yeah, that's not
but
happening.
I was gonna say, I think though, whenever they feature that clip in like the previews, I think that was from that one episode I mentioned where Barry's like looking into the possible futures and sees a vision of Crisis of like everybody getting wiped out.
Oh, is
I
it?
think
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure. Like whenever they show that in the previews, I'm like, that's just from the one episode. So I don't think. I think that's just being like, look, we got to. Crisis was expensive. We got to save some money somewhere. Um,
I could see them killing off some folks from Arrow because, you know, why not? I don't know. We'll find out. Nash Wells will die. That's my prediction.
yeah,
Nash Wells because they can always bring another Wells. Um,
yeah. Actually, that actually is one thing I wanted to ask you for, since you are more of the expert in this field. Who or what is the character of Pariah? Because they keep mentioning him, but I'm not sure what is his kind of role that he plays in like all of this.
so in the original Crisis, he's a character who made some sort of mistake of some kind. I can't remember immediately off the top of my head, and he is supposed to. He's been punished to go to each Earth before it's erased and forced to watch it being erased. And so
Okay,
he kind of like goes a little crazy after seeing all these Earths die. Now it seems like the version of Pariah they're doing in in the CW is has a different background. So
yeah.
I'm not. I'm curious to see how they're going to do that. But so yeah, so that's what Pariah is. That's the story there. It's
Well,
really not an
uh,
interesting story.
okay. I just didn't. I like I said. I'll be honest. Like that was. It's kind of really reaching that level of sort of obscure. I'm like, I have never seen this character pop up in any other form of like the of like DC media or anything like that. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't have any sort of like short of going on the Wikipedia. I didn't really have anything knowing about it. I can see that too because again, they just. I do like that is a recurring bit on the Flash where they're just like, and we'll get another Harrison Wells because I
Yeah,
think they even do like they even do like a play on Marvel's Council of Reeds where I think they have like a Council of Wells.
yeah. It's
Uh,
basically like a joke.
yeah. I don't know. I really have the only other prediction or something that I think they're eventually or something I think they're going to actually do or like pay off. I think because they've been hinting at this for a while is they're going to make Diggle a Green Lantern. I'm going to call it right. I mean, they already kind of sort of did that last season where they're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, John, you're not wearing your ring,"
Yeah,
but I mean, because in all fairness, Green Lantern's a hard character to probably pull off on a CW budget because his whole power is, well, I make things with a magic green ring, which I'm
right.
assuming, you know, I don't know what their budget is like for CGI, but I'm assuming forming, lots of different constructs it probably costs a pretty penny. But I have a feeling like they're going to do something with that. If they don't, I would be very surprised.
Yeah,
To be perfect.
they've been playing around and hinting at that for years now. So I'm
Mhm.
sure they'll do something. The most blatant comparison has been in the comics. The the Black Green Lantern is known as John Stewart.
Mhm.
So John Diggle is his name on the show, but he has a stepfather who's played by Ghostbuster Ernie Hudson, whose last name was Stewart. So they've been dropping like little hints along the way.
Okay. Wait, when
And
did that happen? When did that happen with Ernie Hudson?
it was last season. It was a random episode last season. Um,
Okay.
they needed a filler episode, and they needed to give John a plot. So they're like,
Hey,
it's a Ghostbuster now.
hey, Ernie Hudson's got to work too, you know.
Yeah, Ernie Hudson's got to
I'm just
eat.
kidding. Yeah.
Um, but fun fact about Ernie Hudson, he was in the running to play Joe West.
Was he really?
Yeah,
Huh.
he didn't get it.
Oh,
Um,
that's a that's a bummer.
but let's see. Those oh, another prediction of mine. Everyone thinks because this is what happened in the original Crisis storyline that all the shows that take place in all the different Earths, namely Supergirl and Black Lightning, are all going to be folded into the main Arrowverse, and they're all going to take place on the same Earth. I have news for you. That's not going to happen. Um, just because it happened in the original Crisis comic doesn't mean it's going to happen in the CW verse. I predict that the Anti Monitor will end up killing a bunch of Earths, but they will end up doing something that will reverse it all, and it'll all go back to the status quo at the end of the day, and everyone will be happy.
Well, I will say the last episode, because the way that they're doing the Crisis is we're going to get it's a 5-part thing. We're going to get 3 episodes or 3 parts of it, tonight, which is Sunday, then Monday and Tuesday. Then it's going to be a couple weeks, and then I think when it rolls around, that's when we'll get the last 2 parts. And the last part or the last show that is part of Crisis is the Legends episode, which
Yes.
if you need to pull, if any show is going to pull crazy out of left field BS to solve a problem, it would probably be Legends. So
Yeah, but do
I
keep
wouldn't
in
be
mind,
surprised if
this would probably be the least Legends type episode. Or
that's true. But I wouldn't be surprised if they have to say some dumb line of like, "We got to create a second Big Bang" or something along those lines.
oh god, you're probably
To,
right.
there would be like, well, the Wave Riders, you know, quantum core could be used as a, some techno babble, but I don't think, here's the thing, I don't think I'm wrong.
You're probably
Um,
right.
but I will disagree, I'm going to disagree with you slightly. That's like one of the because for the most part, whenever they do, because I've kind of noticed this with like, whatever Marvel's done this too, whenever they do an adaptation of a comic book story, um, for the most part, they don't really follow it like beat for beat because it would just be utter nonsense. It'd be like 12 hours long. But they usually try to keep the general gist of it, of like what the core of the story is. Like I think back to like the second Avengers movie, Age of Ultron. I think that story was just Ultron actually wins, or it's basically Ultron taking over the world, right?
Hmm.
So that's the general gist of the second Avengers movie. Crisis on Infinite Earths, the biggest thing that's known for is the reshuffling of like the continuity, and it would be really. I think it would be kind of. I don't want to call it weak or anything, but I do think it would be kind of like hey, this is the most enduring aspect of this story. We're not going to do it. Would be kind of a cop out if they didn't do something, or because I don't think it would be too hard to just say it takes place all one Earth and all the histories are just merged to just coincidentally be taking place in one history or some nonsense like that. I'm sure, but I don't know. I would be very surprised. Am going to stand on the opposite side of this fence and say, be very surprised if they did merge all the shows onto one Earth. In theory,
I think it would mess. It's not like a. I think it would mess too much with continuity. I think it would make things super confusing. Like suddenly Superman exists on this Earth when, well, okay, how come if Superman existed on this Earth? How come it didn't help out when Flash needed this? Or how come this didn't happen? How come that didn't
all
happen?
right.
I mean, I think it would cause more problems than anything else. Um, I yeah, I could see them doing maybe one episode. Like here's this. How's this one for you? Like the big
Okay.
cliffhanger between when we go away for the holiday break. It'll be like all the Earths have merged. It's all one Earth now.
Okay.
And it's like we see our characters all in completely different lives. And then when it comes back,
Oh.
then when it comes back, they realize, wait, now that all the Earths have merged, reality is starting to fold in on itself, or I don't know, some crazy make believe
Comic
nonsense.
book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and and they'll be like, we have to restore the multiverse. And so I could see it being, I could
Okay.
see them utilizing some plot threads from uh, the somewhat sequel to Crisis of Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, where the end goal
Okay.
there was returning the multiverse. So I could see them like pulling some plot threads of that. So maybe they'll like have their cake and eat it too. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see
Yeah.
that working. Like okay, like for example, like in Black Lightning right now, the storyline in Black Lightning deals with this supposed foreign country that's invading America and specifically targeting the town that Black Lightning lives in. You mean to tell me Supergirl and Superman and Flash wouldn't all be there trying to help out this town? No, it doesn't. That makes no sense to me. Not to say that it couldn't happen because each of these shows do their own thing, but it would start to like,
It, it would start to.
it wouldn't be good for Black Lightning's show to be all of a sudden because like the big thing in Black Lightning show is that this between this supposed enemy country and this U.S. government agency, they're trying to control all the metahumans. And
Right.
the implication on Black Lightning is that metahumans only exist in this particular town because they were given a drug years ago, and they
Mhm.
gave the kids who were born from it were given birth with these powers. Um,
Mhm.
so if this shadowy government agency wants the metahumans, well, why wouldn't they go after Flash and all the metahumans
Yeah.
created in Central City? That seems like that'd be right up their
Well,
alley.
I guess that's true. My only, and I guess this may not be the strongest evidence for this, besides the fact that besides what I stated already. But I think, and again, this might be kind of dumb, so just take it as you will. During the Elseworlds crossover, there was like that. I won't say force, but it was kind of like that scene at the end where like Supergirl and Batwoman were like, "Hey, we'd be really good partners together."
Hmm.
Yep. Too bad we're on separate Earths, but if we ever come across each other, we'll have each other's backs.
Yeah, like
Which
what?
I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, I took that as well. One day we'll be just a hop, skip, and a jump away, so we could team up for each other's adventures or something. But again, I admit that's kind of weak evidence because you can still do that because it's again comic books and you can
Hmm.
when you really set your mind to it. But I don't know. I can kind of see yours sort of like have your cake and eat it too, where it's like, well, we'll only have one Earth, and then at the end, the multiverse is restored. I could see that. So I will semi concede my point, but I still, if some version of Earth merging is not incorporated, I will be disappointed. Whether or not that is a kind of like, okay, we're changing the status quo deal, or if it is just a temporary thing. I do hope that there is kind of that they do kind of change the status quo a little bit. At least, I mean, besides the fact that Oliver is supposed to die.
Hmm.
Like I do hope that there is kind of some. I mean, that was my only one in terms of like, okay, I can see that as a bigger status quo where it's like, oh, okay, the two versions that the Arrows has of Gotham Metropolis all take place in the same Earth.
Hmm.
But that's the only thing I can think of. Do you have anything that you kind of think of, like, in terms of what they could do to change the status quo?
Considering all the other crossovers never really did anything major that changed the status quo, I don't see this doing much of that. Other than whatever they learn from Crisis might affect the main characters going forward. But I don't know
Mm,
what that is. Like, let's say
yeah.
Brandon Routh's Superman dies, and Supergirl being like weirded out by that. Or Barry Allen seeing his father figure die again. Um,
Again.
I mean, it happens a lot, and that having that happen, Legends would just be like, "Man, that was a weird thing. Okay, now let's go find killer clowns." The Legends would be like, "Whatever."
Yeah.
Um, Batgirl, I did hear that Crisis will have a big impact on Batwoman, probably based on whatever interaction she has with Bruce Wayne. So that might
Mhm.
affect that. So I don't know. I don't. It might have the bigger effect on Flash. I just don't know how yet. Um, so
Because I
we'll see.
think I heard. Because I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So
'Cause I was going to say, I think with Flash at least. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say like I think we should hold off like on major predictions because I don't know how this story will go. Like how they'll totally
Mhm.
adapt it to the CW because there's a lot of ways they could go. a lot of ways that wouldn't work based on the comic. So it'll be a you know
I mean,
when we do our review of the first three episodes, we'll dive into like what do we think is going to happen next.
or
So,
how are they going to wrap this up?
hmm
Yeah, because definitely, I think the big elephant in the room for all of this, because I kind of mentioned earlier that this is kind of a similar equivalent to like an Avengers Endgame, but
hmm
Endgame was like the end of like a chapter. Like you could definitively say this is where a story ends. You know, you can start fresh with whatever new stories you want to go on from there. After Crisis is done, you know, there will still all both those shows will still have significant portions of a season left to tell. Um, it's not really like, you know, oh, I mean, it's the end. It's the end for Arrow, definitely. For the rest of the shows, well, it'll be well. That was a weird adventure, um,
right.
because they will have to, you know, have 10 or 15 more episodes of story to tell. So yeah, that's. I think that's kind of my. I think that's kind of one of the main things I wanted to say.
Okay. Well, we've been going on for a while here, much longer than I anticipated, but whatever. I think let's. I got nothing else to say about the road to crisis. I think we've
Mhm.
exhausted the discussion on it. Um,
Yeah, I think we had. I think we hit most of the main points, or just kind of like all of the pre-discussion stuff
yeah,
before we actually get to start watching these episodes.
yeah. So next week we'll talk about the first batch of episodes. Are you cool with that?
I'm d- I'm always down to clown.
I'm just arbitrarily make like ordering. You will do this. And then
Think so.
after that we'll take a few weeks off. Probably not from podcasting. We'll have other episodes ideally, but then we'll do the third wrap up episode of Crisis when that show comes back in the new year. So stuff to look forward to.
Yep.
So all right, well
Yeah. So
let's wrap this bad boy up. I'm Nick,
I'm cousin Charles.
and this has been the All New Culture Cast. We'll see you again next week. You've been listening to the All New Culture Cast, where every episode is all new. Check out new episodes and our back catalog at allnewculturecast.libsyn.com. We could also be found on iTunes. The All New Culture Cast, a saltwater production, copyright 2019. Thanks for listening. Ah, it's this damn show.